UiPath has got two design experiences. One is the classic and the other is the modern design experience. As an RPA developer, we should know both the experiences, how to use what. In this playlist, we are covering the classic versus the modern design in a step-by-step manner where we are focusing more on the modern design. In the previous videos of the playlist, we have covered already all of these topics. In case you are absolutely new to modern design and you want to get started, you can refer to the playlist and get started. Today in this video, we are going to discuss about the descriptors in the modern design experiences. This is going to be our agenda. We are going to start with what exactly are the descriptor, what is a target anchor pair. There is a functionality called show all matches, how and when we should utilize it. Whenever we work with descriptor, there are some icons which are provided by UiPath. We are going to understand what are those icons and what are its meaning, right? So this would be our overall agenda for this video. In case you are coming to the channel for the first time and you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel to get the latest videos in the series. Let's start by looking at the definition of the descriptors. So in the modern design experiences, whenever we try to indicate any element on the screen by using the activities such as click or the type into, we have seen that we have something which is called the unified targeting method, which is a combination of multiple targeting methods, selector, fuzzy selector, image. All of these technology work together to find the UI element on the screen, right? Now, along with that, these methods also use the anchors, and the anchors also use the same unified targeting method to identify the anchors, which means that the anchors are also being identified by selector, fuzzy, and the image. We have already discussed the unified targeting method in the previous video, so not spending much time here. But going to the definition of descriptor, this combination of the anchor and the target element is called a descriptors. So whenever you go and you click on any element on the UiPath Studio, what happens? The target element is identified by selector, fuzzy selector, and the image. The anchor is also identified by selector, fuzzy selector, and image. And this work is as a combination, and there is the method, there is a combination which would be first able to identify the element on the screen. This combination of the target element and the anchor is called a descriptors. Descriptors are generated when both the anchor and the target are successfully identified using their respective targeting method. Meaning, chances are that the target element is being identified by the fuzzy selector and the anchor is being identified by the selector or the image, right? So it can have a different combination, different pair. But the thing which you should remember from this slide is that what is the descriptor? The descriptor is a unique pair of anchor and a target element, right? So this is the definition of the descriptors. Now let's try to understand the descriptors in the UiPath Studio, right? So I am in the solution of the modern design and I have created a sequence which is called a descriptors. Okay. So I have got an application, let's say this one, which I have to automate. This is a CRM application where we have some of the input fields where we have to automate it, right? Now if you see, when I click on the others, all these fields look exactly the same, right? So let's say I have to type something on the screen, right? So the first thing first, I'll go to the activities and I will take an activity because we are using the modern design. So we are going to use application/browser. Okay. And we simply point it to the application which we want to automate, like this, right? And that will load all these settings, everything for us, right? Now what do we want to do in this application? I want to type something on this one, right? So I'll go here and I'll use something which is called type into. Okay, and you can see inside the UI automation applications I have something which is called type into. Drag and drop that type into inside this one. And now let's try to indicate on the application, and Now as I point my mouse here, you would see that it is looking for all the elements. So as we have seen in the slide, it works on the combination of selectors, fuzzy selector and the image. So now if you see your focus here, it says that you have a target, which is this element that is identified in the green, right? And it says that I am using the strict selector, that is ticked. I am using the fuzzy selector, as well as we are also using the image to find this element, right? Along with the target, UiPath has also identified this thing for me, and which is asking for the confirmation that do you want to add this as an anchor, and as a developer I can have at least 3 anchors, right? So if I just go and click on this button, now this generic one has been added as an anchor. And now if you see here, the anchor is also identified with strict selector, fuzzy selector and also with the image, right? So if you see here on the left menu, with the selection option, you have two things. You have the target and you have the anchor. Okay, and this combination of target and anchor is called a descriptor. Now if you again go into the target, you would notice that the target is using the strict selector, the target is using fuzzy selector, and the target is also using the image. Now how does I as a developer know that which technology or which targeting method was able to first identify the elements, right? So you would see here in the target, you see these two concentric circles. UiPath notifies you that I was able to identify this target with the help of strict selector. That is why you see these two concentric circles here. So these two concentric circle indicates that this was the first targeting methods to identify the elements on the screen, right? And as we have discussed in the previous video, you have always an option to remove the targeting methods or add the targeting methods which you don't require. Okay, so what exactly is a descriptor? The combination of the targeting methods and the anchor first able to identify the elements on the screen is called a descriptors, right? So all you have to do is just go here and click on this button which says confirm. Okay, and that should give you this descriptors. Okay, so I hope now you have the clear understanding that what exactly is the descriptors. If you understand it, just comment down descriptors and I would understand that yes, your concept of descriptor is clear. Okay, with that we'll move forward now. Now let's talk a little bit about the target anchor pairs. What do I mean by that? So during the runtime, the robot uses all the three targeting methods which we have seen: strict selector, fuzzy selector and image, to identify the elements, right? And this means that all these three targeting methods are used to identify the target and the anchors. That is why I call it as a target anchor pair. Now if you talk about the possibilities, there can be total of 9 possibilities, 3 for the target and 3 for the anchors, right? So on the right hand side of the screen, you would see that I have mentioned something which is called the target anchor pair, where at the bottom you can see that the arrow indicating the strict selector, the arrow indicating the fuzzy, and the image indicating that image, right? So now if we have to think of the target anchor pairs, the combination would be 9, and these are the 9 combination, which means that the target and the anchor can be identified by the strict selector and the strict selector. The target can be identified by the selector and the anchor can be fuzzy selector. The target can be strict selector, the anchor can be image, right? Similarly, all this combination here, this indicates that the target can be a fuzzy selector and the anchor also can be a fuzzy selectors, right? Meaning that you have total of 3 into 3, which is the 9 combination of target anchor pairs. Now in the runtime, what happens? The robot run all the 9 combinations simultaneously, searching for the successful pair without being limited to any targeting method. When the matching pair is found, the robot executes the activity. In our case, it was type into, and it enters the data into the targeting field. This target and the anchor pair is known as a descriptors, right? So the definition of descriptor was clear. Now whenever you have to work on the real time, it works on the 9 possible combination 3 by 3 of the target anchor pairs, right? So this is what we mean by when we say that target anchor pairs in the UiPath modern design descriptor. Next, let's talk about the option which is called show all matches. It is a feature which helps you to identify all the possible matches of the selected application within the automated application. This option would be very helpful for you when you are actually debugging the UiPath UI descriptors or the selections, right? We already know that it uses a combination of selector, fuzzy selector and image, right? But sometimes the robot able to identify more than one element. Now in case as a developer, you have to make sure that the robot does not identify more than one element of the screen. You have to tweak the selectors, you have to tweak the fuzzy selector, you might need to redo the image, right? So how you would check that which all elements are identified by my targeting methods, right? So that is why you have a debugging feature which is called the show all matches, which is available in the UiPath descriptors window. It shows you all the possible candidates which are identified by that targeting elements, right? And it is very useful feature, right? Let's try to go to UiPath Studio and explore that feature in detail. Okay, so back to my UiPath Studio. This is the application which we have to automate. Exactly the same thing. I'll go to the activities and take the type into activity. Okay, so I'll just say indicate on the screen and point it to any one of those like this, right? And UiPath automatically generate the descriptor, combination of the target element and the anchors. Okay, now when it has generated, on the left hand side you can see we have the target and the anchor. Now when you click on the target, this concentric circle means that this was the strict selector, right? But now I want to debug, I want to see which is the strict selector it is looking for. So you can click on this I button which stand for show all matches, and you would see that S indicating that this is the strict selector. Okay, now for the fuzzy selector, this is not the recommended technique, right? This is not the, I would say, the first one to correctly identify the element. Why? If you now click on the show all matches, you would notice all these F indicates which UiPath is telling me if I only use this targeting method without anything, I am getting more than one options, I am getting more than one UI element, which is not correct, right? So that is where you can use this fuzzy selector and click on this button and say that F. Now in case you want to improve this fuzzy selector, you definitely can go here, edit this selector and make this selector more reliable by adding more additional parameters, right? So that is this button which comes in handy, which shows you what are the things which is able to find, right? Similarly, if you go for the image, for the image it says that hey, I have taken this image, but as a human also we could find that there are multiple images with the same thing. So image is also able to identify more than one elements on the screen. Now similarly, if I go to the anchor, the same option of show all matches is available for the anchor as well. You can see here this is the strict selector. If I click on this I button, it says that this is the anchor which I have created for generic one. Okay, so now let's say as a developer you have to modify something. So I go here and I am just modifying the selector. You can see here I'm just removing this one and I am putting a star here, right? Selectors including the wildcards, right? In case you don't understand what is star and the question mark, dedicated video explaining this is already available, right? So what I'm telling UiPath is that let's say I as a developer, I have to manipulate the selector because of some reason. Now apart from renaming it, let's say I just went here and I just deleted 2 of the entries. Okay, so this was some developer who was trying to do something on the screen and I just updated some of the selectors to fix something, right? Now the target method still says that hey, I am still able to find it, right? But I made some changes in the selector. I can click on this validate button and now it shows me that the strict selector targeting method point to a different element on the screen. The generate this generate expected runtime behavior. Please rectify or disable the targeting strict selector. So UiPath gives you a warning that hey, you have made something and now the strict selector is not able to identify the elements. So I say okay, and now you would see here this is something, a new symbol which is coming, and now if I click on this button, it says that this is the element I am finding with the strict selector, and your computer vision is also getting duplicate, right? So this show all matches is helpful whenever you try to manipulate some selector. You can just come here, click on this one, and you can validate that where exactly my element is being identified, right? So this is the function of show all matches, right? And show all matches is available both for the target, all the targeting methods, as well as for the anchors, right? Now when you manipulate the selectors and you do something, right, you would be seeing that there are different icons which are coming. Sometime you see here this is red, this is a blue, this is a kind of a copy symbol, this is also kind of a copy symbol, right? As a developer, you should be properly aware of what these symbols mean, right? So next we are going to talk about what exactly are those symbols, right? So let me go back to my presentation. Okay, so show all matches we have seen, very handy feature. Click on that and it will show you which all elements are identified. Okay, now talking of the icons, these are all the icons which you can get when you identify the elements on the screen, right? So you can have this concentric circle, this blue arrow, the red one, or you can have this copy symbol, right? So these concentric circles 2 means that the targeting method was fastest to identify the elements on the screen. Whenever you see a blue tick, this means that this method worked but was not the fastest. Okay, so the first one, 2 concentric circle, bullseye, right? This worked and this was the fastest. The tick one, this method worked but was not the fastest. Whenever you see this one, which is a kind of a 2 copy, this means that this method found duplicate and the correct element was identified by using this method along with the other targeting method. So this copy means this worked, right? But this has found duplicates. That is why that is a duplicate, right? Now whenever you see anything in red, this means that this method found duplicates, right? So the symbol for duplicate is this method found duplicate and the correct element could not be identified. So it is duplicate, so the blue indicates that it is duplicate but was identified by the other targeting method, so you don't have to worry. The red indicates that this method found duplicates and the correct element could not be found, and whenever you see this kind of a stop symbol, this means that this method failed to identify any element, right? So the colors are blue and the red, right? So the blue one are the it is able to find the element. This is bullseye, the 2 concentric circles, which means that this is the fastest. The tick mark, yes, this is method work but this is not the fastest. If you see the 2 duplicate blue, which means that they are found duplicate and the correct element was identified by using this method along with the other targeting methods. The red, he had found duplicates and the correct elements could not be found, and this stop means that it failed to identify any elements on the screen, right? So whenever you are working with descriptors, you could have all these different icons and you need to understand as a developer what these icons mean. So these are the icons you would see here, and you can just keep your mouse on the circles or the image and you would be able to see the same thing, right? So let's say I just go here and I delete something like this and I click on the validate, right? You would see this symbol, right? This method failed to identify the elements, right? So if you just make any changes in the selectors, you can make use of this one, which is the show all matches, to identify, and then you can also make sure to use this one, which is that what does it do, right? So you can see this blue duplicate now when this method is exclusively. So all these details, whatever we have seen on the slide, is now available on the UiPath Studio for you. But as a developer, you should be able to identify that what is happening in this descriptor window. Okay, and all these details are presented in a very good format by UiPath Studio for us. Okay, so that is all I wanted to cover in this video. Let's have a quick recap. So today we have seen what exactly is a descriptor. A descriptor is a unique pair consisting of the anchor element and the target. We have seen whenever a UiPath tries to identify any element on the screen, it is using the three technologies, the strict selector, fuzzy selector, and the image to find the respective target methods, right? And this pair is called a descriptor, the anchor and the target method. We have seen that we have an option which is called show all matches, which is pretty helpful feature whenever we are doing the debugging of the UI elements. And lastly, we have seen that how we can utilize the icons and what does all the icons mean, right? So I hope all of these concepts are clear to you. If you have any more questions, any more doubts, feel free to write me in the comments, or you can also drop me an email as well, right? So with that, I would like to wrap this video here. Thank you for watching and happy automation. Okay, so that is all for this video. I would like to wrap this video here. I hope this was insightful. If you have any more questions, any more doubts, feel free to write me in the comments, or you can also drop me an email as well. I would appreciate your feedback on the video, and tell me in the comments what would be the next topic or next video you want to see. So with that, I would wrap this video here. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please do subscribe to the channel, and happy automation.